is the IPW UK owner, Billy Wood, and you are listening to Pro Wrestling Post Podcast.
You are listening to the Pro Wrestling Post Podcast with Mark Madison. In this episode, he is talking to Billy Wood. Visit ProWrestlingPost.com for interviews, blogs, and upcoming events in your area. Find the podcast at iTunes, Stitcher, Anchor, or whatever your preferred podcast app is. And now, here's Mark Madison.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Post Podcast. I am joined by a very special guest, Mr. Billy Wood from IPW. Thank you, Billy. I welcome your time and your energy.
No worries at all. It's always great to, speak to different podcasters from around the world. So thank you for inviting me on.
Maybe you could take fans a little bit through the journey as to how the purchase of the promotion first came about, and what your initial vision for the company was up to today. I guess we're approaching that 1 year mark, if not just passing it.
Yeah, no, for sure, without a doubt. So prior to IPW, I promoted back till 2009, originally with a company called EWW. I then took a sabbatical and came back with a promotion called Fight Nation, which was a southern UK-based promotion that was garnering some traction. The IPW purchase came about, to be honest, through a conversation with previous owner. And we discussed, where the promotion was at and where he was at. And long story short, I kind of approached him with the question of, would you be interested in selling? And the deal was put together. The deal was literally put together within weeks. I did my due diligence in the company. I had a strategy of what I wanted to do with IPW, and with that in mind, I felt the price was correct and did the deal. So that's how it kind of came around, and that's how it happened. And we did that. In fact, we're over a year. In July, we announced the deal for Fight Nation to buy IPW, which is all now under one. I say Fight Nation doesn't exist anymore. It's all under one thing as International Pro Wrestling Limited. So that was it, really. That's kind of how the deal came around. And my vision hasn't strayed. It really hasn't strayed since I took over the company. The plan was from day one was to be consistent. Consistent with incredibly high quality wrestling events that mix the great in-ring action with entertainment, and take the audience on a journey. Show them the best of what Britain's got and mix it up with the best from around the world. It's called International Pro Wrestling for a reason, right? So we have to bring that international flavour to it. And I feel within 12 months, we've incredibly delivered in our objectives.
You've said that you haven't strayed from the goal and the intention of the promotion. What can you foresee for it moving forward? I mean, it's grown in popularities just over the pond and into UK, but how would that transcend in looking at that internationally? Do you plan on just staying local to the country, or do you plan on taking it on a tour and connecting with other promotions?
We are in a very fortunate space right now, in the sense that promotions around the world are communicating and working together probably better than they ever have. And being what I would consider one of the top promotions here in the UK, it's only natural for us to have dialogue and relationships around the world. For example, we did a CCW IPW show in London in May this year. We have a Pro Wrestling Noah show in September, as we have a great building relationship with that company in that office. So will IPW travel outside the UK? 100% we will. It will be with our philosophies and our ethos that if we have to travel outside the UK, which we will partner up with promotions. Sometimes we'll go off on our own and do the shows in different markets and deliver the similar product that we put out here in the UK.
Outstanding. I think those of us that don't normally get to see it or are watching it on an IPP View or a streaming service really would welcome the idea of seeing you live and in person. That's fantastic.
No, without a doubt. I think, the world is smaller than it's ever been in the sense that you can really reach out to people. Now, our streaming service actually skews 49% US. Well, I say US, North America, shall I say. And with that being said, why wouldn't we, at some point step over to the shores and come over to North America?
No, exactly. I mean, it's going to be fantastic. There are services like a Power Slam TV that does host and air your product slightly after it's been up and available, but just having access to it, you're getting more eyes on it, which is always the idea.
Yeah, for sure. We've got great relationships with high spots and places like that. We are just about to sign off on a deal with another subscription. Well, I say subscription, a app that we've worked with previously. So we're looking at that, and we're just trying to make sure that the IPW name is out there. It is accessible, and people can understand what we're trying to achieve with it.
Who would you say has maybe helped to bring more exposure to the company, whether it be a domestic talent, somebody that's local, or somebody international? And why do you think that name maybe brought such popularity to them in your time with them?
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
Not a problem. So, during your time, who would you say, if there's a talent, a specific talent, either domestically, somebody that's from the UK, or maybe somebody internationally that's come in and held the reins or held the championship, who would you say that might have been, and why was it there? What was it about that particular person that brought such notoriety, popularity to IPW UK?
Well, internationally, there's only one man I can really, put head and shoulders above the rest in my reign, in my first year reign of IPW, and that's Austin Aries. Austin, we did a deal with Austin Aries to bring him into the UK in December. It was when the first independency was announced for, off the back of leaving the WWE, so there was huge hype and huge buzz. We then curated a deal that Austin would then work for another UK promotion called Defiant, which then led to an IPW Defiant angle, which we ran for a few months over at Defiant. So once again, it helped get the IPW name out on there to their fan base and to their subscription as such. But with Austin, he's been an absolute consummate professional in everything we've ever done. He was our IPW World Champion from December, till April this year. He took the belt everywhere he went outside of IPW. It spent a few months on, US national television on Impact Wrestling. And so if anyone's done anything for the IPW name in a sense of bring more awareness and, global awareness, it has to be Austin Aries. Now, going back to the UK and what we're doing here, and the UK wrestlers are super, 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 super important to what we do. There's two names that really, really stand out, and then head and shoulders above the rest, and that's the former IPW World Champion Mark Haskins, who is one of, in my eyes, one of the greatest wrestlers that's ever been produced by Britain, and our current champion, who's still very young in his career, but right now is also one of the stars on the new ITV World of Sport TV show, and that's Kip Sabian. In the last year, he's really climbed the roster to the point where he cashed in and won the World Championship at our last pay-per-view. And the reception to Kip has been incredible. Wherever we go, there's a reaction, and Kip just improves every single time.
Interesting. In Kip and Mark, and in mentioning both of them, I can tell you that as a Canadian, having access to Smash Wrestling and Mark Haskins competing and working with Smash, and that exposure it definitely has helped him independently move across. But do you think that some talent are more apprehensive to walk around with a title from another promotion, or is there a stigma, or do you think that might be gone and they're just proudly helping to promote the company in any way they can?
It all depends. I think it depends on the promotion, and I think certain promotions hold more weight than others. There's no denying that, you know, winning a championship in a promotion that no one knows or has no real prestige, it's going to be a lot tougher for that you know, champion to walk out with the belt on bigger shows. We're fortunate that I guess sometimes that's not the case with us. You know, promotions have reached out asking for IPW World Championship matches. So we are kind of in a bit of a flux between that. You know, Pip may wear the championship in certain promotions outside of IPW, and some he won't. You know, he won't be wearing it for the World of Sport on television. One, because it's already been taped, but two, because World of Sport probably wouldn't allow it. But for me, I feel we live in a world now where lots and lots of people, lots of promotions go hand in hand. You know, products do differentiate between them, but at the same time, you know, why would we pretend that Progress Wrestling doesn't exist? Why would we pretend that Rev Pro doesn't exist, Smash Wrestling? Why would we pretend that these places don't exist? I think for us to do that would be silly.
Across promotional opportunities, open eyes to the product, and it seems regardless of whether you're here or there, it's brand and it's marketing, and why can't it work, right? All hands on deck for ultimately the same goal.
No, without a doubt. We've all had the same goal to grow our companies. Now, you look, some people will work easier with others. It's just natural. Mm-hmm. But for me, I'm pretty open to working with people on a multitude of levels.
Now, you did bring upon that Austin really brought a lot of acclaim, popularity to the title. As an ex-champion, giving a lot of exposure to the company as he did, are there other major names that you can kind of foresee, without maybe peeling too much behind the curtain and giving us names, that would be the intent? Or is it more, the idea is to bring in international talent, not necessarily the largest of names, but the focus is more, we really want to try to elevate the UK talent, or are you still trying to balance between both of those?
I think this week's a good example of where our mindset is. On Sunday, we announced that the Said Force Division Open Invitational Worldwide Tournament. So we completely opened up our inboxes to allow talent from any promotion, any country, to put their name in the hat for a spot in the Said Force Division tournament. Now, this is my opportunity really to assess, you know, not just who the hot new indie guy is, but let's dig deep. Let's really go country to country and see what is out there, what is hot, who is hot, you know, who's been overlooked. Let's look at some talent, you know. So we did that. We have had over just shy of 1 million in total. The posts have received just over, actually, funny enough, 1 million in audience reach.
Wow.
in less than 48 hours. We've had over 450 applicants now for the 16. There's only 16 spots in the tournament. You know, we've had a lot of major, you know, wrestling stars put people forward for it. You know, for example, from Michael Elgin to Will Ospreay to Joe Hendry, a bunch of different, you know, certain level talent, should I say, have been suggesting names. So this tells me that the tournament is not just on the radar of some, but everyone knows about this tournament now. You know, to just get on Facebook alone nearly 600 comments on a post, I think it's pretty much unheard of in professional wrestling outside of the WWE. Mm-hmm. So we've launched this. We've launched it specifically to find that talent, and I'm trying, and my team are trying to really draw up a shortlist. And for me, it's not about who lives in the UK to make it cheap, so we can put the tournament on with just UK guys.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care where the talent is. This is about grabbing 16 talents from around the world to fight in the tournament, to hopefully become a regular for IPW.
In doing that, what would you say, from somebody looking outside in and asking, what would your criteria be? Because there are so many applicants. Is this yourself kind of weeding them out, or is this part of a team, or do you look at a balance? You had mentioned people work better with others. Do you look at reputation? Are all those things kind of come together when making your decisions?
I think with regards to the tournament, I want a varied style. The Zed Falls division isn't about a weight category. It's not about just a certain type of wrestling. It's about finding that next unearthed gem, and polishing them up to be something special. I mentioned Kip Sabian, and he was a former Zed Falls champion. He's now a star on primetime UK TV and our current IPW World Champion. Amir Jordan is now, a contracted WWE UK talent. He will be on NXT UK. He's a former champion. So for me, it's for us to look at, who's on the cusp, or, even more so, who has absolutely been overlooked and deserves, a stage. Now, I'm not saying IPW is the biggest stage, but you know what? There's eyeballs on the product. So if there's eyeballs on our product, people better take advantage.
In your opinion, who would you say that, not that you're necessarily overlooking them, but have put in the time and the work ethic, but their time will come, but for whatever reason, weren't given the kind of attention they're deserving?
Answering that question, I think there's names there that I feel have been overlooked. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's been people that have been overlooked. I feel there's been... No, I wouldn't like to sit here and say X, Y, Z, have been putting the effort in and haven't got there yet, because I think that would be unfair.
Okay.
And also, I think that would be unfair to give them the pressure. There's talent on my roster that I know have the ability to be top guys, and they should be, without a doubt, working a lot more than they are. I think there's talent that haven't made it to IPW yet, that maybe I'm overlooking, and this is why this tournament is been put in place, because I want to assess everyone. Even the talent that have been knocking down the doors, but I've not had a spot for them in IPW. This is the opportunity for them. And this is why I've created it. And this is why, with the buzz around it, my perception of what the tournament and how I was going to hold the tournament has changed. And it's become a focus rather than, hey, this is a way of us testing talent over a 6-month period. The buzz on the tournament is so hot. Why can't it be its own event? A 1-day or 2-day event? It potentially could be. So it's wrestling's exciting and wrestling's unpredictable. And whilst we always try and be consistent with what we do in our product, we have to be on the cusp to be able to be ready for change. And that's the bit that excites me more than anything else.
Well, we can definitely tell the passion. It's definitely there. And in all fairness, it isn't really fair to kind of put that pressure on saying somebody hasn't been. They're going to be the ones to put their best foot forward and kind of let the chips fall where they may.
Oh, for sure.
Fair enough. So, you did mention a cross-promotional storyline that worked out with Defiant and IPW. Can you foresee anything along those lines being done again, or do you feel that it might run the risk of been there, done that, or do you try to reach out to other promotions, or do we just, rather than me trying to suggest ideas, what's your vibe or feeling with going into the second year as far as ideas and storylines?
Well, with IPW, we're going to the 14th year anniversary show in September.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this promotion is so important to the history of British wrestling. So important. There's no denying that. You know, for example, it's where, you know, people like current GM of 205 Live in the WWE, you know, as we know as Spud, and now, you know, Drake Maverick, he's, you know, an IPW legend. You know, Martin Stone, now Danny Burch in NXT, he is an IPW legend. You know, the history in the matches, you know, the Marty Scurlls and the Zack Sabre Juniors, you know, these guys all had so much detailed and storied history in IPW. It's a promotion that was there, you know, in fact, to grow these talents, to turn them into the talents they ended up becoming. You know, well, I say turn them into, you know, gave them opportunities that you know, in the stage that some didn't. But for the future of IPW, it's simple. It's not boom and bust. It's consistency wins the race. And for me, we just continually put on great events, catch emotion, catch attention, and keep growing. Do things professionally, treat our talent incredibly well, and also I just want fans to leave our shows going, wow, did you see what happened? I cannot wait to come back.
I've often heard with promotions where the idea of trying to put all their eggs in one basket and being dependent on one thing isn't necessarily the best recipe. But you just mentioned how being consistent is so important. Is that balance crucial, and the difference between where companies succeed and fail?
Yeah, I feel like, you know, talking about the consistency, I think, you know, you put on one great event, it doesn't mean your promotion has made it.
Right.
Or it doesn't mean your promotion is the hottest promotion. You have to be consistent with what you're doing. The fans have to be on that journey with you. And if they're not, then it's not what you're offering. You know, if you want to be one of those promotions that just puts on, you know, oh, this talent's getting over, let's just put them versus them, and yay, we have a hot moment. That's what you want to do, fine. But where's the longevity in that product? There is, in my eyes, there isn't none. So you have to look at it like, right, okay, what's going to gain the notoriety, but what's going to keep them coming back? How do I keep pro wrestling fans wanting to, you know, sample the UK, the IPW, you know, the IPW product? What's going to keep them, you know, keeping me going, hey, look, you know, that IPW is the hot thing, you know, not right now, but that's the hot thing, because you always know, no matter what, you're getting quality each and every time. You either buy a pay-per-view, you buy a pay-per-view, you either buy a ticket to a show, or whatever. However you're trying to sample IPW, I want you to come back the next time.
Outstanding. So for those of us that maybe aren't as aware, really the UK boom internationally, how long would you have said that was kind of on the cusp, and then it really emerged, and maybe the Marty Scurlls and the Will Ospreys were being the ones that kind of took that popularity and kind of skyrocketed? Where did you see that initially beginning? Where was its grassroots?
I think with regards to that, I think it's always been on the cusp of such of happening, but it just hasn't happened. So, you know, IPW, like I say, you know, it was a promotion back in the early noughties called the FWA that was considered one of the, if not the place to be. It was like the British ECW. It was the hotbed of, you know, of British wrestling. There was a little boom, but the boom was prior social media, so you don't get the reach you get, you know, nowadays. Then, you know, things kind of died off a little bit. You know, lots of promotions were running shows in front of probably 20 to 30, 40, 50 people.
Wow.
And then there was just a bit of a change of the wind, you know, change of the wind in a little bit of people being interested in independence again, which coincided with the rise of Progress Wrestling. And, you know, and Revolution Pro Wrestling, which in fact is owned by Andy Corden, who was the booker of IPW, and Revolution Pro Wrestling exists due to his split from IPW. So at that time, that those guys led the charge, and it just kind of continued from there. And I think the eyeballs were on British talent. More British talent was getting signed to the likes of TNA and WWE, and I think it just spiraled from there.
As to where we are right now with enormous cards and names coming over that are just as well lend themselves to North America and Japan as they do into the UK, and it's continuing to boom from there.
Yeah, without a doubt. Just look at the names from Pete Dunne to Tyler Bate to Trent Seven, who all will be at our anniversary show in September, to Marty Scurll, to Will Ospreay. These guys are really leading the charge, and I feel that with regards to social media, you can create up even more of a frenzy. Self-promotion isn't a bad thing, and these guys are, masters at it.
One of the more interesting things is, we tend to hear about somebody really riding that wave of popularity after they're already become popular. But for those that maybe aren't as aware, who would you suggest people kind of keep their eye out for as being somebody that has that really special something about them, that regardless of where they are, whether they're in IPW or they're just competing on the circuit, and what is it about them that maybe makes them so special?
Well, I've mentioned him already before, and I feel like it's his time now.
Yeah.
So we should keep their eye on Kip Sabian.
Yeah.
He's making his Ring of Honor debut this month too, on their UK tour. He's one without a doubt people should keep their eye on. From there, looking at other young talents that are coming through, I think people should keep their eye on a young guy called Maverick Mayhew, a young British, a hybrid between tech and high flying. He's an incredible young talent, and I think he'll do some great things. And I'm trying to think of people that are not so much on the radar. A big heavyweight known as Rob Sharp. He is one of our most popular guys at the moment, and I feel that if given more opportunities elsewhere, Rob could be one of the outstanding breakouts for British wrestling. He's a real throwback to that big, heavyweight, muscular style of wrestling. He's a guy that's believable, and by God, you do not want to get one of his lariats.
For sure, you'll probably regret it afterwards.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think that where the talent is just developing? Are they doing it at a younger age? It seems like a lot more talent seems to be training at 13 and 14 or 12, whereas years in the past, it was their early 20s and really weren't booming until they were in their 30s. So is there more access to training in the UK, or are those schools available?
Oh, there's definitely more access. There's 1,000,001 schools. Doesn't mean they're any good, but there is so many schools now, which sometimes isn't a great thing, because unfortunately you get talent on shows that aren't ready for shows. Going back to the question about the age thing, I think it's simple. I think wrestling's more accessible now than it's ever been. Back in the day, how did you find a wrestling training school? It wasn't listed in your directory inquiries or your yellow pages. It was, now you can Google it and you'll find schools. So I just think wrestling is so much more accessible than it's ever been. Doesn't mean it's the most popular it's ever been, because on the top level, audience is lower than they have been in years, and ratings aren't what they were. So you can't say it's the most popular it's ever been, but as a niche, I think the niche part of the business has swollen, and I think that's a great thing. But at the same time, talents are training younger, because ultimately they're finding out the information younger than they ever would before. The only guys in 14 were kids, generation business. If you're not around the business, how do you get in? was like Magic Circle.
Yep. There are those that are born into the business and feel as though they're as familiar, been around it, but there's those that are scraping by and just wrestling in front of 50 people just to get their name heard. So,
yeah, for sure.
Now, before I do let you go, I mean, this has been really eye-opening in a lot of ways, and I do appreciate your time, Billy. But before I let you go, I was curious if you're interested in taking part in a little bit of a game that we do here on Pro Wrestling Post. Okay, so the game is called Wrestling Tinder.
Wow.
Yeah. So, unlike anybody asking anyone out, and if they'd be interested, what we do here is we throw out topics. And again, if you're interested in the topic, you can swipe right. If you're not interested in the topic, you swipe left. And then the pressure's on me to try and come up with something else that you may be inclined to discuss or share.
Cool.
Okay. So the first topic of discussion, obviously, there's the belief in styles. Those that would call the more acrobatic or athletic styles not a reflection of real wrestling, whereas those that do feel it's just as much a part of the sport as anything else is.
Well, let's super like that one. That's for sure.
So
I think
you're gonna swipe right.
We're gonna swipe right on that one. Sure.
Okay, go for it. Sure.
So, wrestling is subjective. I feel people. There was a real outcry when the Ricochet Will Ospreay match went up, maybe a year or 2 years ago now, when everyone saw it as more of a choreographed sequence straight from a superhero movie. And I get it. I totally get it. And I can imagine Jim Cornette ripping his hair out, watching it, of what he has left. But for me, wrestling is the circus. I feel like, you can give something of everything as long as it fits your brand and the style that you're trying to perceive. For example, I don't think there is a certain wrestling style. You don't just put on a high-flying card, because where's the variety of that? I will mix my cards up to, you have the real gritty, big heavyweights clubbing the shit out of each other. Mm-hmm. Or you'll have the acrobatic, more lucha libre style, to get the wow factor to the crowd. Or you have something that's a little bit death-defying. There's always, it's like a roller coaster. A wrestling show is a roller coaster to me. You have your the build-up to going to the top of the peak, and then you have your way moment when you go down the roller coaster, and I feel that's how you should treat your wrestling shows. It's taking them on an emotional roller coaster. So I don't hate any styles as such. I just, as long as there's logic to it, if there's some certain logic, then, or story being told, then who am I to judge the style of wrestling? The only thing I don't like is when referees do flips and dives and whatnot, which I saw becoming a thing about a year ago, which I think is incredibly embarrassing and you would never see on my show.
So referees were just as much a part of the match and being involved physically as the talent.
A referee is there to officiate the contest. If suddenly that official is doing a senton bomb from the top rope to the outside on the talent, what are they really officiating? And why would, on a logic basis, the promoter or the matchmaker or whomever the role is of the owner look them to referee another match ever again?
I'll be honest. I can't make heads or tails of that one either. It's peculiar.
It's ridiculous, but that's how I feel.
Outstanding. Thank you again, Billy, for your time, your energy. We really did appreciate having you on.
No, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
On behalf of IPW UK's Billy Wood, this is Mark Madison for the Pro Wrestling Post podcast.
Thank you so much for listening to the Pro Wrestling Post podcast with Mark Madison, and thanks so much to Billy Wood for his time. Once again, Visit ProWrestlingPost.com for interviews, blogs, and upcoming events in your area. And once again, find the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Anchor, or whatever your podcast app you prefer.